7 weeks after that bridge came crashing down, more than 20 of the original crew members who were on the cargo ship Dali at the time of the collapse, get this, they're still on board. And earlier this week, they were below deck as emergency crews did this, detonated part of the bridge that was left sitting over the Dali's bow. Again, the crew members were on the ship still. All right, for more on the conditions on board and what's next for those crew members, I want to get to NBC News correspondent George Solis. George, we've seen every inch of the top of this ship. Have we ever seen these people?
Hey, Tom. Yeah, in short, no. Only federal investigators, a few members of different unions, and even some members of clergy that have been able to go and hold services for those crew members on board the Dali have ever actually seen them. And as you pointed out, they were actually below deck when that explosion took place. They were safely on board, but up to this point, we still haven't gotten a good look at these crew members. So it is one of those big questions still lingering once the ship gets back to the port of Baltimore, Tom.
Yeah, and then, George, I want to ask you, keep this in context for us, because we believe these aren't locals. We almost know that, I think, for certain. They're trapped in the port of Baltimore. These men are from other places around the globe, thousands of miles away.
Yeah, that's right. So last reported, these are crew members from India, from Sri Lanka. They have been on board there for these past weeks. But mind you, these are professional seafarers, so they really haven't been necessarily cut off from the world, but they are far, far away from home. And up to this point, they really haven't had a whole lot of outside contact outside of maybe their phones and satellite communications that are on board the Dali that are still operational at this point. But keep in mind, professionals or not, keep in mind the weight of what they had to experience and what they have lived through. And obviously the questioning from federal investigators, many of them, of course, concerned that some of them may be personally held liable for what happened in this tragedy. But nevertheless, they expect to be treated the same way that perhaps American seamen would be treated if this tragedy had happened overseas. But again, the big question is what will happen once they get back to the port, Tom?
And then why can't they just hold them somewhere like in a hotel? Why do they have to hold them on the boat? Do we know?
Yeah, Tom, I think I lost you there for a second, but if I understand, it has been weeks, and we do know that these crew members have not been evacuated yet because they are part of the ongoing investigation there on the Dali, and they need to be there, especially when you consider what happened there with that detonation. These crew members are the ones that understand this ship the most, and so they needed to be there. So the expectation is they will stay there because they are essential to the functioning of this ship. And again, once they get back to the port of Baltimore, we'll see how much longer they actually stay here. But one of the things that we do expect is for them to be able to return home fairly quickly once this investigation wraps up, Tom.
And real quick, I know the unions for these men that represent these men are demanding they be let off this ship. Do we know what the conditions are like and how they're doing just, in their headspace?
Yeah, so we do know that the ship is fully stocked. And again, we've had people that have been able to visit the ship and provide some rations. Again, fortunately, the satellite communications on board the Dali are still working. And again, for some of them, the concern is that they're going to be held personally liable. But once investigators took their phones, there was obviously that heightened tension of concern of how they were going to stay in touch with loved ones. Our understanding from some of the unions we've been in touch with is that they were given new phones. Some of them even had their SIM cards returned, but they have been without tablets, some entertainment for a while. So that, in essence, has cut them off from some of the things that might be able to keep them distracted from all of this. But again, keep in mind, these are professionals and they're used to being at sea for months at a time, and they are doing the essential work on the boat while all of this is still happening. So in short, it's really hard to say what their entire mental status is, but we do know for the most part that they are still functioning and doing the work that needs to be done there day to day, Tom.
George Solis, who's done a lot of reporting for us on that Baltimore bridge collapse. George, we thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.